Clarity over complexity builds real wealth over time. So I'm here to help change your future. From the Real Book Studio, this is the Matt Money Show. Is it ethical to use credit card points? Now, this is a topic that I recently started thinking more and more about as I've been doing this show. And I do recommend in the Matt Money system to use 2 credit cards per household. One is your daily driver. This card is used at grocery stores, gas stations. It's used when you have the spontaneous pickleball game with friends. And then the other one is for your savings buckets. These are, the once a year Amazon Prime, the vacation. And it's really a great tool for keeping things organized. And so that, you can pay off your daily driver once a month. And then the savings buckets one, it just applies, let's say you go on vacation, use the savings bucket card. And then at the end of the vacation, you transfer the money from your high yield savings account and you pay off the savings bucket card. And so because of that, I really love using the 2 credit card system. But there's also a feeling of malicious behavior around credit card companies. And I want to shed light on some of these. This is not to change the Matt Money system. This is not to make you feel bad about using a credit card, but it is something that maybe as a society, we should consider a little bit more closely than we do. The first thing that credit card companies do is they have some practices within their apps and within their billing processes that discourage people from being organized. The first one has been getting cleaned up over the past few years with the introduction, I think, of the Apple credit card. So one of the advantages of using the Apple credit card, which I think is backed by like Goldman Sachs, is the moment you use it, the transaction pops up in your app. So you can actually see that, and then that should sync over to your budgeting software or whatever. And I actually think that's a really positive thing. But for the longest time, and there's still credit cards that do this, your transaction won't show up for a day or 2. And I know for sure if you tip at like a restaurant, that tip amount is not always showing up live either. And so because you don't have live transactions, it can be hard for individuals using these credit cards or businesses too, to keep track on when they've maybe overspent in a given day or week. Another one that I can understand why this exists, but they have weird due dates. Almost every credit card has a different day that it's due, even within the same company sometimes. And they're always not really congruent with your pay schedule. They'll be due on the 10th or the 22nd or whatever. And, maybe there's some that allow you to move the due date now, but, rent has always been due on the 1st, mortgage due on the 1st. Maybe it makes sense for credit cards to be due sometime on the 20th or so because maybe your paycheck that comes in on the 1st wouldn't be enough to cover rent plus the credit card. So I understand the argument, but because of the weird due dates, it can be hard for individuals to keep track of when they need to pay these off. And I know there's auto pay, but the auto pay is also coming out on a weird due date if you are using it. And that actually segues into my third reason that I think credit cards maliciously try to mislead the users is you will only pay on the 30-day balance. So rather than paying off the entire amount of the card on auto pay, it will only pay off the amount that is due from the last 30 days because every credit card essentially gives you a free 30-day loan. Now, the reason this is a problem is because people will inherently think they spent less than they actually did in the previous month. And you have to look really far back, basically 2 months, in order to see what your expenses were for that actual month. So without going down the rabbit hole any further, you can see that there are inherent things in credit card practices that go against our human psychology for being organized. And because of that, it feels like they want people to get behind on their payments, not be aware of how much they're using, and owe them interest. And by the way, that is their business model. They have 2 main revenue drivers. One is interest on past due payments, and the other is transaction fees. For every time you swipe, You don't pay the transaction fee as the buyer, but the business you're buying from does pay the transaction fee. And here's where there's maybe more bad behavior. You've seen a decline of small business ownership in our country over the last, let's say, 15 to 30 years. And with the rise of electronic payment processors, more and more businesses feel that they have to do this. You've probably gone into businesses before and seen, we take cash only, or please pay in cash. We get 100% of the profit if you pay in cash. Whereas if you don't, we have to pay $9 or whatever to the credit card company or whatever. And so it is inherently made small business harder to succeed. You're paying more of your prices that you're trying to compete with the Walmarts, the Amazons, the Applebee's or whatever chain restaurant that's down the street. And because of those transaction fees, it doesn't hurt them as bad, but it really affects the bottom line of the mom and pop shop. So you either have to raise your prices, which then maybe makes you less competitive, or you just have to eat the fee, which makes you less profitable, gives you less legs. And the last thing, discouraging savings. You may be thinking, well, I don't see how using a credit card discourages me to save money. But I recently saw a commercial, and what they basically were saying is that this couple goes to an extremely fancy restaurant, and because they're getting 3% cash back with their Capital One card or whatever it was, they order the entire menu. And you may think this is just a funny gambit as a credit card, but the real data does show that we spend more money when we get our cash back. Because why wouldn't you? If I get 3% cash back, that's great. The problem with this is it is encouraging people to prioritize spending money on things so that you'll get the cash back rather than just saving the money. Like, would you rather have 100% of your money in savings or 3% of your money in savings? So I'll kind of come full circle with this. I think using a credit card when you're responsible can be something that's very powerful. You'll earn cash back, you'll get your airline miles, and it is a great tool for staying organized. But it is not without pause that cash back and those airline miles that we're receiving for those of us that are organized with our credit cards is coming at the expense of small businesses who are paying exorbitant transaction fees in comparison to what they can realistically charge. And it's coming from people who are behind on their credit cards so bad that there seems to be no hope. Listen to people who are in massive credit card debt talk about their outlook on their ability to get out of debt. It's a very scary situation for those people. And that's where that money is coming from. So just keep it in mind. I'm not telling you to not use a credit card, but it is just something that I think as a society, we should think more about. Maybe there's a solution. I don't have the solution today, unfortunately, but I'm here to propose the issue. And hopefully through legislation or through people being more responsible with their money, yes, these credit card rewards probably would get scaled back, but maybe we'll be healthier as a society and start to see more of those mom and pop restaurants and shops reopen. This has been the Matt Money Show. I hope you guys have a great week.